Star Wars, Star Trek, and dinosaurs. Well, not all at the same time. Wouldn't that be fun? I'd call it Star Wars. But still, we've got a lot of great board game news coming up. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Matthew, and we start with the announcement of Unfinished Business, the highly anticipated expansion for Star Wars Outer Rim. Fans of the game have been asking for this since Outer Rim was first released in 2019, and Fantasy Flight knew this was going to be welcome news as they finished their annual in-flight report with a short 20-second teaser trailer and a literal mic drop. Outer Rim is a game of bounty hunters, mercenaries and smugglers, and you're aiming to not only join this underground world, which is the opposite of an underground world because it's in space, that's not important, but you'll be hiring famous Star Warsy crew, upgrading your ship with mods, upgrading your gear and rolling dice checks. What is needed, according to players who have played it a lot, was an injection of new material, new events, missions, characters and ships to help push the narrative of the game in new exciting directions, which is where Unfinished Business is poised to come in. Only that's pretty much all we know about the expansion. Fantasy Flight haven't released any details about the expansion yet, and its content is still a secret. In fact, the Board Game Geek page has a level of sass on it I've not seen before, with a one-sentence description that reads, Star Wars Outer Rim Unfinished Business is, as you might expect, an expansion for Star Wars Outer Rim. So even the game's BGG page, created by the publisher on the internet's largest website dedicated to board games, doesn't even know what the game is about yet, but there's a lot of anticipation surrounding the edges of the galaxy. But for something neither long ago nor far away, we have the sponsor that helped make this episode possible, HABA Games with Rhino Hero and Animal Upon Animal. If there's one thing I love, it's stacking animals. It's one of 3 reasons I'm not allowed back to the zoo anymore. Fortunately, HABA is here to save the day with both Rhino Hero, which literally takes constructing critter columns to new heights, and Animal Upon Animal, arguably the premier beast balancing game. In Rhino Hero, players reach for the sky as they construct an actual 3D building out of cards for the plucky Rhino Hero to ascend, while your Rhino travels to the troposphere before the tenacious tower topples. And for something more down to earth, there's Animal Upon Animal, in which skillful creatures carefully create piles of precarious pyramids, and to top it off, the player to stack all the animals in their zealous zoo wins the game. Follow the link in this video's description to find both Rhino Hero and Animal Upon Animal at your friendly local game or toy store, or anywhere online where HABA games are sold, and start cracking that animal stacking. I think it's safe to say that Seven Wonders is a board game Hall of Famer at this point. It's got a stack of expansions, a recent 2nd edition, a spin-off 2-player game, Seven Wonders Duel, which I think is incredible, and now Repos Productions have announced a 3rd game in the Seven Wonders line with a standalone Seven Wonders Architects. In Seven Wonders Architects, 2 to 7 players are racing to become the leader of the ancient world by completing an architectural wonder. And players receive an unconstructed wonder at the beginning of the game and then go about the task of collecting all the resources they need to build it, as well as in classic Seven Wonders fashion, developing their military might and researching scientific improvements. The rules have been, in designer Antoine Bowser's words, reimagined from the ground up with family gameplay in mind, making for a quicker, easier to understand and more family-friendly experience. Which seems to be the case, as you now draft from decks of cards that sit in between the players, giving you the chance to draft a card from the deck you share with your opponent on your left or on your right, or you can take a card from the face-down central deck. So instead of drafting from a big hand of cards, which can be a bit more intimidating, you have the option of this card, or from the face-down central deck if you fancy a mystery card and you like your odds. Seven Wonders Architects is coming at the end of the year. Also, there's a cat in the game, which I'm a big fan of. Next, I want to talk about AireCon 2022, which, full disclosure, is happening in partnership with us. Watch It Played next March. And the biggest news at the moment is that tickets have gone on sale. The Watch It Play team will all be there, which will be the first convention that many of us have attended in 2 years. I mean, the last time I saw Paula was at AireCon 2019. In fact, we'll be hosting several special events and all manner of Watch It Played style nonsense, and you can get tickets for the March 11th through the 13th event at the AireCon website, which is linked below. There's also an AireBus, which isn't a bus that runs on air or filled with air. Well, it is It is a bus. It technically is filled with air, I guess, but that's not why it's called an air. It's a bus that's leaving from London up to the event in Harrogate, stopping off for some adventures along the way. It's the nicest bus I've ever seen, and more importantly, it has tables for gaming. I would love to see as many of you there as possible, if possible. So I'll keep you updated about it here from time to time. KeyForge is broken, which sounds like tabloid hyperbole, but even according to the press release from the publisher, yes, it's currently actually broken. Or at least the algorithm for creating new KeyForge decks is. You see, every deck of KeyForge is uniquely designed by computers running a complex technical algorithm, meaning that no two are the same, but also the production of KeyForge decks is dependent on that algorithm. Imagine being dependent on an algorithm. On that note, please do like, comment and subscribe. So with the development of the 6th set, the Winds of Exchange, that algorithm has stopped doing whatever the heck it was doing. So Fantasy Flight have announced that while production and development is being done with the new set, they can't actually print any until they fix this algorithm. I have no doubt they will fix it, especially as they've recently paired up with Stainless Games to create a digital platform to play the dueling card game. But this spanner in the works, along with all the other spanners, hammers, wrenches and a whole lathe that the past 2 years have thrown at us all, will mean that while more KeyForge is coming, when it will arrive is anyone's guess. But for a Richard Garfield game that isn't algorithmically challenged, we have the announcement of Mindbug, which is set for a small release at Essen this year with the Kickstarter to follow soon after. In Mindbug, you'll be summoning hybrid creatures and then sending them out to battle against your opponent. But when you summon a creature, your opponent may use one of their mind bugs to take control of it. So it's all about outwitting your opponent as you tactically duel them, knowing that having the best cards is only good if you play them at the right time. This all seems very interesting because playing a card doesn't require any resources in Mindbug. It seems there's no ramp up phase where you need to be gathering resources, there's no deck building, and there's no advantage to either player as they draw cards from a shared draw deck, making Mindbug sound pretty unique to me. And having Richard Garfield as part of the design team is a pretty good omen in my book. Unlike all those dead birds I keep on seeing as I walk my dog every morning. Next, we have a series of announcements starting with yet another game in the Azul line of games with Azul Queen's Garden. King Manuel I has commissioned the best garden designers of Portugal to construct some extraordinary gardens for Queen Maria, and you better believe that means you'll be drafting some tiles. This time the tiles represent different aspects of the garden you're going to be drafting onto your own personal player boards, and we're going to go out on a wild limb here and say that you're going to be doing that for bonuses and points. I'm always going to try a new Azul game, and this is no exception, so I'll look forward to trying to garden out of my mind later this year when Queen's Garden is released. Mille Fiori is a new game from Rhino, where you take on the role of glass manufacturers and traders who are on a mission to profit from glass art, and my journalistic unbiased integrity is out the window on this one because I'm hyped. But that's okay because I can replace that window with glass art, which you better believe is going to somehow get me points. The game board is made up of workshops, houses, people who support your work, trade shops where it's sold, and the harbour which ships your creations to faraway locations, and your aim is to be present in all of these areas, but preferably just at the right time to maximise your earnings. Drafting cards, playing tokens just at the right time, ooh. You ever see a game and just know it's going to be something special to you? That's how I feel about Mille Fiori, which I do not know how to pronounce. But I'm looking forward to it immensely, and Schmidtspiel are releasing a German version in October with an English language version hopefully to come in the future. Star Trek Missions has been announced by WizKids for next February and is based on the engine that runs Fantasy Realms, which is the runner-up in this year's Kenner Spiel des Jahres award. In this new version / adaptation of the Fantasy Realm system, players will be going out on Star Trek missions to build the highest scoring combination of cards they can. And if it's anything like the original game, which it certainly seems to be, it will be a game of high risk, high reward maneuvers as you combo your cards to get big points. I'm a big fan of Star Trek, so this appeals to me more than a glass of Canard to a Cardassian or a bottle of Tetracell White to a Jem'Hadar soldier, though really the Jem'Hadar were designed to be addicted to the tea white, and they have a complex organisation within them. I'll level with you. There's a video game that caught my eye over the last couple of weeks, mainly because my friend Paul Dean was streaming it. Paula Chino on Twitch. If you fancy seeing a lovely face. But he was playing Dice Legacy. And I'll tell you, it looked cool. Dice Legacy is a roguelike survival city building game where you lead your realm by rolling dice. Real dice. Real digital dice. And the dice will help you, or not, construct your buildings, gather resources and discover uncharted lands. Your dice represent the subjects of your realm, so you'll need to keep them happy and healthy by providing them with food, ale, medicinal herbs, and though the population starts out as humble peasants, as you roll your way through the game they advance to become citizens, soldiers, priests or merchants. It looks cool. I think there's going to be a lot of us in the board game world that might enjoy Dice Legacy as a crossover, so I was really excited to tell you about it. We'll go on to some quickfire news stories. Messina 1347 was announced by Delicious Games, who had Praga Kaput Regni and Underwater Cities coming before it. Messina 1347 takes place during the Black Death as it spreads infection throughout the town. In the game, you play as important families who leave for the countryside and attempt to save other townsfolk, but also make sure their temporary homesteads stay plague-free. It's being released in Essen, with Rio Grande bringing it to English speakers among us later on. Lucky Duck are entering the octagon of small box puzzly fun with a series of co-op mystery games called Crime Zoom coming in October. The first two being His Last Card and A Bird of Ill Omen, which I didn't know was called that before that strange dead bird omen joke I wrote before this, which now itself feels like a bad omen. Regardless of my fate, you'll be working together, flipping cards, solving clues and investigating crimes to find culprits, motives and of course evidence. I'm always happy about more games entering this category, like the Unlock and the Exit games before it, so I'm hopeful these will be fun as well. Allies has been announced as the 14th expansion for the deck building juggernaut Dominion. Apparently it's a celebration and peace with the barbarians has been achieved, and everyone is getting down to party with 400 cards to play in December when it's released. And Funko Games have announced Jurassic World Legacy, which they've said isn't even the actual name of the game yet. There's no information about this at all whatsoever, other than we now know that there's going to be a Jurassic Park themed Legacy game in the future. Honestly, this would have been headline news if we'd have known anything more about it. But for now, that's the news, and I'll see you next time.
Matthew!
Bye.
Matthew! Hey, Matthew! Don't stop the news! I got breaking news, Matthew! Asmodee did it! Matthew, Asmodee sold for $2 billion! Oh, I had to get that onto the news. I mean, could there be bigger news? Hold on. What? Wait, what? It's not sold. The company that owns it wants to sell it. So they haven't sold it yet? Okay. Breaking news to the breaking news. Apparently, the investment firm that bought Asmodee in 2018 for $1.2 billion is just announcing that they want to sell it for $2 billion now. So they're just announcing in the hopes that someone will pay that money for it? That's what happened? Well, in that case, Matthew and I are announcing the sale of Cult of the News for $2 billion as well. Canadian even. We're not greedy. Then somebody else can be responsible for breaking the breaking news.